Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
Well, my morning started by having a dentist use a Dremel power tool to make space between 5 or 6 of my teeth.
Was that for to help with the high notes?
Mm-hmm. No, where I'm going to, actually it's funny because we kind of touch on this a little bit in the episode, but I've just got my first set of aligners in. So for the next year and a half, I'm going through the aligner thing. So he didn't tell me that this part was happening, or I might have rethought the whole thing. So that's not what you want to have happen.
No,
45
it is
minutes
not.
After you wake up in the morning.
For what it's worth, we got into that with Fowler, not with Terry Bingham. So, it's like,
Keep track.
Listen to the last episode. That's what, that's where you'll find the dental talk. So, happy birthday, Lance.
Hey, thank you.
How old are you?
I appreciate it. This was my gift to myself, was to torture myself in a dentist chair the day after I turned 55.
See, I think that space between your teeth, whatever the space is, that's what God intended. Like no space, lots of space. It's like, it's not something that
I have to think some of it's because I waited until I was 55. That has to have played into it because I don't know. He was a very nice man. I'm sure he's good at his job. It was just not a pleasant experience for any of us.
Oh, I bet his billable hours were pretty good, actually. I bet it was.
Those aren't bad.
Yeah, I bet it was a fine experience for him. Just a hunch. Guess who I played?
Except I peed all over the place.
That is okay. I take it back. That is not. He's probably not paid that much. Yeah, those dental chairs are, I bet, expensive. So, guess who I played with on Saturday night?
Fonzie.
That would have been exciting, but this was even more exciting. I played with the drummer for Fish, John Fishman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he know?
He did. I just played the stereo really loud and I played along. But I was really focused on his part.
No, that's cool.
Two friends, Daniela and Matt, got married in D.C. and Fishman is friends with Daniela, and he was a guest at the wedding. And John Butte, who he has a band called Butte and Friends that I play with, and we were the wedding band. And Fishman agreed to join us, so we did Fat Man in the Bathtub from Little Feat, and we did a Fish tune called Gumbo, and we did a Grateful Dead tune, Shakedown Street, and then the Diodato cover of Also Sprach Zarathustra, which Fish covers all the time, and it was like amazing. So yeah, it was a
there you go.
Yeah, yep. I was.
So did you get to hang with him some?
Yeah, yep, sure did. Yep, got to tell him about the time when I flew to Arizona as a 19-year-old to take Sam Palafian. The only reason I flew to Arizona, I told my parents I was keeping in touch with him for graduate school, like when Sam had already told me I was in. This was my freshman year. I'm keeping in touch for graduate school, and sophomore year. And I flew down there to take him to Fish, and he lost his mind, like screamed involuntarily at the top of his lungs with a double fist pump. 3 minutes in, I got to tell Fishman that story and told him how heavy he was, and like how heavy of a cat Sam was, and it was awesome. The whole thing was it was really great. So
very
good
cool
stuff. Yeah, I had a good weekend. So, and I didn't have to go to the dentist. So there you go. So
yeah, win.
This episode, Terry Bingham. Who's
that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy we didn't talk to about dental stuff. He's the non-tuba player.
Well, we did kind of talk about some stuff related.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. No, Terry's had just retired, as you're about to hear, from a 28-year career with the Pershing Zone Army Band. He talks about the quintet, the Army quintet. He talks about like flying to Singapore. It's a really fascinating conversation. I love
and
Terry.
just the transition from being in the military to retiring, what that out processing is like. We got to spend some time doing that.
Yes,
which I don't think we've covered before, so that was pretty good.
He talked about about the importance of his routine. And the success that he's had over the years. Like really, really good stuff. So, and some really good stuff in the bonus episode as well. He talked about learning from Ralph Smedvig at the Empire Brass Seminar, He talked about gave us a behind the scenes look at the audition process for the Army, and he told a story about well, I won't spoil it, but it was about a ceremony that he was witnessing, and that he was very happy that he was not the person playing taps. So yeah, that one's worth the price of admission. If you would like to become a Patreon patron of the Brass Junkies, please go to patreon.com/the Brass Junkies. And you can learn how to access bonus episodes with every one of our guests, as well as a trove of other bonus material. And a treasure trove, or just a trove? I guess, is a trove automatically, is that just large? Or I guess treasure would imply that trove is not necessarily good. Like, can you have a trove of...
Yeah.
Of
I would say we're more in the trove, general trove, instead of with occasional treasure trove.
There's a trove of pee in the dentist's office chair. Yes, there. I guess now I'm curious about trove. So now I'm going to get an email from some linguist. But anyway, my email address is lance@pedalnotemedia.com. So yeah, be sure to email me there. And without further ado, let us get to the conversation that we had with recently retired from the Pershing Zone Army Band, Terry Bingham.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content by the Brass Junkies, just click on the like and subscribe button. You'll have an opportunity to see some of the greatest brass players in the world, and Andrew and me.
And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by an incredible trumpet player who is about to retire. By the time this goes live, he will have just retired from the Pershing Zone Army Band. His name is John Terry Bingham. Terry, how are you?
I'm well. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today?
We're talking to a trumpet player, but it's one of my favorites at least. So it's so great to have you. You've been on the list for a long time, and I think it's a testament to how lucky Lance and I have been in our careers, because the list of people who we've gotten to work with over the years who are really great players and great hangs is long, to the point where it takes years to get to people that are Terry was on the initial list, and here we are 198 episodes in, and this is beautiful. I texted him, he was like, I am retired now, so yes, I can do that day, which was perfect. So how long were you in the Army Band?
It's a little over 28 years.
Hey, dude. Yeah. So when was your last duty day? So if you're listening at home, you don't know. So Terry is on what they call terminal leave, which sounds beautiful, doesn't it? It's like a really wonderful send-off.
Really dramatic.
So
your last
dramatic, but
duty day was when?
We had the 100th anniversary of the Army Band in July, and it seemed a fitting send-off. I had a chance to enjoy that last concert at a venue called the Anthem downtown in D.C., which was new for us.
It's an
great
awesome
hang.
venue.
It really is, and it was a great show and a great way to sign off after 28 years.
Did they do anything special at that gig? I know that. So, well, you will have had. Well, let's go through this. So, if you go into one of the military bands and you make it as long as Terry did, which I did not. If you do,
you were close.
They have a you only beat me by 21 years, but
and he only beat me by 28.
Yeah, exactly.
They generally have a retirement ceremony for you, especially when you're a big deal like Terry. So what's the retirement ceremony entail? Like, what happens at that thing? You get embarrassed a lot. Lots of people have forced to say nice things about you.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a little laundry list of folks that are required to speak, and then on occasion one can ask for a buddy to come up and say a few words. But it's called a retirement stand-to, and your family comes, and the commander generally gets up and says a few things about your time in service. And mine was so long and so varied that it was sort of fun to be a part of that process, kind of hearing back all of the different things that had happened over the years. And I've also got family history in the band. So for my mom and dad to be there with me was pretty cool. Both of them had served in the band. So a lot of history. And I, in particular, like lining up as many things as we can. So it happened to be the alumni weekend for the band.
Oh, that works.
So pretty much anybody alive will have served with one of us. So seeing a bunch of the old guys and gals that we all had served with in the same room, smiling at me as I'm going to this next transition was really wonderful. It was a great day.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so then just to close out that part, so whatever vacation time or leave time you had saved up, so from that date until, well, as we record this, the day after tomorrow,
Yeah.
you're unofficially retired, and then in 2 days you're officially retired.
Correct. And they give you a bunch of time to, sort of
process.
prepare for this transition. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to get signed and a lot of folks to go see one last time and medical appointments and changing this and changing that. But it was a little bit funny. I got my end of month statement and it said 0. I'm not quite ready for 0. I'm hoping that something changes over the next month or two and we get the retirement plan figured out. But yeah, after 28 years to see 0, I was like, yikes, I got some bills.
That's what you get when you retire from a brass quintet. Yeah, they're like, well, just don't get on the next plane and we'll never pay you again. It works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, there's lots of directions to go. I mean, even just that out processing is kind of interesting. Like the military realizes they're about to launch you out into the real world, and so then you're going through days worth of briefings, and you're having to fill out all kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm sure it's changed, but I remember getting like 15 inoculations. There's like all these things that they want to make sure that not our fault, not our fault, not our fault. We gave you all these shots. Goodbye. But just like little stuff like that. I was like, okay, should I be scared?
Yeah. Well, things have changed, and for the better. I've been so impressed by the VA. I've been so impressed by the Military District of Washington, in specific, the team there. If I had been interested in it and taken advantage of it, writing my resume, preparing me for interviews. I mean, the list was amazing, and it was heavy cats. I mean, there's a new program where you can sign up and basically create your own journey. And I could have done 6 months with Amazon. I could have done 6 months working at the Kennedy Center prior to leaving the military. And basically, they set you up so that when you do transition out, you got the gig.
That's cool.
And I've just, like I said, I kind of wished maybe I do want to do something, but I'm going to try this nothing thing for a little while first.
Well, there's lots of, I want to talk about what's next, but you mentioned the fact that both your parents, I think that the fact that you wore many hats is a really interesting thing we should talk about. But let's start with talking about your folks.
Yeah, this is amazing.
So it was kind of funny because my dad was in town for the alumni thing as well as my mom. And I don't think all three of us sat in one room and talked about that. They split back in the 70s at some point. But my dad just sort of laughed. He's like, man, it's a good thing I was on that day because he won a job on bass trombone in 1970, 71. And then when the Army decided to add women, to the military music program in 1974. My mom was actually the first female vocalist, auditioned and won a job in the band. And then in 94, I came in, so that's 51 years that would not have happened if he had been off that day. But he did 70 to 76 and went on to greener pastures as an educator. And then my mom did 74 to 94. And so our only duty day together was her retirement ceremony. I got in from basic training with the crew cut and all of that, and got to be there for her retirement. And then now we're another 28 years later. So pretty cool. I can't imagine any military, unless you're like named Ford, how many places are there 50 plus years of consecutive service from a family, So pretty neat.
That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you would not exist if your father had not won that audition. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess your mother too. But yeah, it's just like it's funny the butterfly effect. Yeah,
exactly.
we'd be talking to some trumpet player that we would almost surely like less than Terry. So that would have affected a lot of lives. It would have affected a lot of lives.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat that you were all able to be there, and that they were participating in Alumni Weekend. There's layers there. That's
it was pretty cool. And for my dad, perhaps he didn't leave exactly how you always want to. In fact, his interview for reenlistment with the colonel at the time started with, "So, hey, John, what are you doing when you get out?" Well, sir. That was sort of how that went. He was teaching at Howard at the time and working on his master's and doing shows around town, which was great for me. I remember, going and sitting in with guys like Fred Irby when I was a little kid. And of course, he's an icon still in our town. But sitting in the pit at National Theater, hearing what that sounded like and experiencing it when I got to play in that theater myself was pretty hit.
Wow.
Fortunately for me, it was mutual.
Yeah.
No one was surprised.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird. You're always so reserved with your feelings.
Well, but it is interesting because you do want to go out on your own terms. I'm leaving a little bit early. I could have stayed till 30. But I think many of us get to this stage and I realize it's more. There's not a lot new happening.
Yeah.
For me, and they're incredible experiences. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But there's a whole host of 30 plus trumpet players in the Army band that are waiting to have the experiences that I've had. And another couple of guys, that would love to run the quintet. And I had a chance to do all of that. It's time for them now. So leaving a couple of years early.
That's really interesting.
I was going to say that
go.
that you that got exciting. Lance froze there for a second. I was going to say, what do you have left to prove in the Army? I mean, you had you were assistant principal in the concert band for a long time. Then you were principal in the concert band for a long time, and then you were the leader of the brass quintet, which I definitely want to unpack that because you did some really cool stuff there for a long time. I mean, there's really not anywhere else to go, and at some point, I like that what you just said. It's more and not new. That's a great way to put that.
Yeah, and another aspect of that was the special bugling. When you get a chance to stand up next to the president at the Tomb of the Unknowns, there's no greater honor. But the gentleman that's doing it now, Matt Byrne, I remember one of the first times I heard him play taps, and this sense of relief of that's the guy. I don't have to do this anymore. Why would I continue to do this to myself? The stress, I'm shortening my life, the gray hairs, when somebody walks in the building and just kills it like that, you recognize, okay, I can let that go. And the same process has happened. Rick Lee's unbelievable French horn player in town and a fantastic leader. I don't need to lead this group anymore. And then you get somebody like Kevin Gibo, another fantastic guy, great player.
Who?
Yeah, I mean, why on earth would I continue to have the stressors when those guys are just chomping at the bit for the opportunity? So,
well, and we're all roughly, give or take, in the same age group.
Yeah,
there are we have colleagues who, and actually, I justifiably recently got called out by somebody who said there's a lot of people listening to this show who are older than we are, and for us to describe ourselves as old is a little disingenuous sometimes. And so, but there can be, and I've seen, we've seen it on both sides where some people where more is all they need. Like, I'm just happy to do this until they turn the lights out. Yeah. And then there's others of us who reach a point and it's like, okay, I mean, how many countries is enough? How many albums? How many concerts? How many tours? How many? And it's funny to see people make that decision because you still have. I mean, I'm guessing that you're in your early 50s.
Yeah.
And so you got a bucket of time left to play and teach and gig if that's what you want to go do. And it's just kind of an interesting phenomenon that I don't know that people talk that much about. It just sort of more experiential, I guess.
Well, I do want to speak to something at some point today as well that has been pretty well hidden over the last 10 years for me. But I've been struggling with focal dystonia from a specific period of time during my service, and basically just got hurt overplaying when Denny Edelbrock and Woody English both retired in the same year, which was 2010. I took on all of their responsibilities, both playing and professionally there in the organization, and trying to carry the principal trumpet role and carry the lead role in the quintet. There was a day we had, everybody knows about the Midwest Orchestra Clinic. It's a hurrah for music and a great time. But we had a 7 o'clock sound check, 8 o'clock concert with the brass quintet. Then we rolled over and opened the booths with the quintet. Came back, had a dress rehearsal in the afternoon for the concert band, and then the 2 set huge concerts, 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock that night, playing principal with, just name it on the concert, Wow. And I remember that next day, and of course that's in December, and there's nothing else going in December for brass players, right? So, I got to the New Year's gig or whatever, and I just realized something was wrong. And so the stress of carrying that, not wanting folks to know, hiding the fact that I'm having to do this, that, and the other to just make it through the day. When we had an opportunity for me to pare down to just the quintet, but still a lot of playing, I jumped on that. And the nice young man that replaced me over there has been fantastic at the gig. But it's just one of those things maybe to say to the younger guys, you don't necessarily have to do it all. You don't have to necessarily say yes to everything, especially when the check doesn't change. Right. It's not like, hey, wow, you're going to get both. No, you're still getting the same paycheck for being principal in both.
Well, I tell students all the time, your career tends to go in cultivation and curation phases. So when you're you're taking on as much stuff as you can. In particular, like you're moving into a new phase now, and it could be that you're like, man, give me everything and anything. And then at some point you get to this no mas thing, and you're like, all right, we got trouble. So then you have to curate, like, what can I let go? What can I hand off? Oh, there's somebody who can play taps. I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to sleep just fine knowing somebody can do that.
Right.
So how long were you able to, what did you decide to share? Like you had, at some point, if you dealt with it for 10 years, I'm guessing you had to confront it with the boss. So how'd that process, you just did it.
I just did it, man.
You're a monster.
I know I'm dumb and I'm proud, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Both those things could be true.
So did you go see, there's a variety of folks in the country. You just muscle through?
Well, I had Lori Frink in my back pocket for many years. I'd gone through something similar in college, so I knew the process and I knew the tools, and I am so grateful to she and Bill Adam, both of them, may they rest in peace. Just icons of chops. And so I just had to go back to what I knew worked and continue to work that. And then, what was interesting, you guys will appreciate this, but running the quintet, we never had a set. We had a set list. Mm-hmm. And I'd vibe the tunes, I'd vibe the crowd, I'd vibe the gig, whatever, and call tunes, just like a big band leader would, which is where my background was. Anyway, so if my chops are feeling like crap, hey, let's play this next,
Tuba
hey,
feature.
Christian, you're up. John, let's do a tuba feature next. You'll be great. So I was able to mask some things like that. But for the most part, it just was trying to be a professional and find a way to put, I guess muscle is a good way, but push through. But the problem was that led to a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Teeth shifting, TMJ, headaches, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So at some point I did say, hey, what's the chances of this? And so when the boss said, hey, you can move on from principal and just cover the quintet, there wasn't like, I'm going to think about that. It was that day. Literally that day. Yeah, I'm out. That'd be great. Thanks.
That's when you pulled a pen out of your pocket. You were like, "Where do you have the thing I need to sign, or is that like an electronic thing, or how does that work?" Wow. Let's not lose sight of how how hard it would be to mask something like this if you were just playing like gigs around town or just just playing like a quintet for a graduation ceremony and playing second trumpet, but you're like playing principal trumpet in the and lead first trumpet in the quintet and principal trumpet in like one of the best concert bands in the world. Like that's every time that I have heard, I had no idea, and every time I've heard you play, you've sounded like Terry Bingham, every time I am in a room with you and your trumpet, like I have high expectations, and that's your fault, not me, just because like you always sound amazing. So I just
you're too kind.
Well, no, but I'm being honest. I
never too kind.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I think we have that in common, because somebody's like, I'm like, no, if I compliment you, it's real, bud. There's no...
I mean, it's not like I'd have you on here because you're important to be like, I'm not really a fan of your playing, but I would not be heaping praise on you if you're an exquisite musician and you play multiple styles and you sound the same, like leading the concert band as a chamber music. I mean, it's like one of the biggest compliments I can give someone is that every setting that I've heard you playing in, that sounds like that's your home base in terms of like style and in terms of like ensemble size, etc. And that's not easy to do. You're not alone. There are other people that do that, but it's hard, like to sound when you play in a quintet, to sound like you're just a quintet player, and when you're playing lead in a concert band, to sound like you're a concert band player, etc. And I had no idea. So that's amazing.
There were a couple of folks close to me, but I think people that have been through this, just admitting it to yourself, that was tough enough, let alone some of my battle buddies. But I think once I did, and in fact, I spoke to this in my retirement ceremony. We're in such a blessed place with the military bands. Like, there's no reason to hurt yourself. If you feel that coming, ask for help, take a break. The check keeps coming. Your family's still taken care of, and you're going to prolong your career. I'm not sure what's next for me, because there's some toll taken with all of the notes down the road. But I'm hopeful. There's still a few more to play.
Was there a? I want to get to the Duquesne ad here, but was there a? Do you have a? Was there a thing that you knew to do, like for the next few months, I'm going to X, or I need to approach it in this particular way? Like, did you have a system to get through, or you just sort of like day by day?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of aspects to it. One is the routine that we'll get a chance to speak to at some point. And the almost maniacal, this is what I do, this is what I do. And it's both mental and physical to prep. It's like going to the gym or, whatever you do to be ready. You can play on an injured knee. I think Brady won another Super Bowl on one, a couple of years ago. So one can be successful with that level of preparation. And I think that diligence was what made it successful.
Well, let's unpack it when we get to talking about routine. And let's back up for one hot second and say that
please.
As much fun as I'd like to make of the military band situation, they were. I just want to echo what you said, where if somebody was like, I mean, obviously, if you busted a finger or if you did it, like if there was an obvious injury, they would just find some other duty for you to do while you recovered.
Right.
And you're still going to get paid. You're still going to be cared for. You're still coming back. And they were, I found across the board, it was a very supportive environment in that way.
Yeah.
You didn't really ever have to wonder. You didn't fear for your job security there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I will take this opportunity to talk about the wonderful people at the Mary Papper School of Music at Duquesne University in beautiful, sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And
More
Kentucky.
pencils. So please do us a favor and go click on the link in the show notes to go figure out what's happening at Duquesne University in the Mary Papert School of Music. Fantastic lineup of faculty and ensembles and opportunities for you to be involved in. And they've been longtime supporters, and it's no lie. There's some of the best teachers in the country. So thank you to them for being a longtime supporter, and a very, very special thanks to Jim. Deep, heavy sigh. Nova. I got nothing. I mean, it's just like
that was the weirdest one yet, man.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest one yet. He's had about
Joe, how
100
about there?
nicknames.
Oh, now in then this will be a good one. Jim, I'm so inspired by you, Nova, for making
Yeah, there you go.
this possible.
So inspired that he was just silent for 5 straight seconds in front of a microphone, which is
Shaking his head.
almost as rare as me being silent for 5 straight seconds in front of a microphone. Wow, I'm like processing the whole injury thing and how you dealt with it, and I mean, I do want to segue here into what you're doing next, because we're talking to you at a very unique point, you know, in your a noteworthy point in your life and career, but I just want to echo, you know, when the fact that that you just generously told us about this, but then also were just generously saying that you did not necessarily handle it how you know, you would suggest others would, you know, and just being more forthcoming, and yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot that you had to deal with.
Well, just carrying that stress by yourself isn't the right answer, and it's going to come out. Period.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know,
Sure.
so you can either talk about it and it's going to come out, or you can just be an asshole to your friends and family and it'll come out. But I recommend talking about it if you get the opportunity.
And if I can get on my soapbox for just a second, in the age of social media, in general, people are sharing a highly curated best version of themselves, right? Like nobody shares. And this isn't even a criticism. It's just a fact that nobody really shares like a 10-minute clip of them like really hitting the wall in the practice room. You know, it's like just like the worst sounds that have come out of your trumpet in 4 months don't get posted to Instagram, right? And so it can, especially for younger people, it can be easy to see everyone's, even somebody like Terry Bingham, who sounds like Terry Bingham every time he's got a trumpet in his hands, but you see that finished product, and then you don't realize how much struggle may or may not be happening on any number of levels, like musical, personal, professional, whatever. And just know that, and that's why it's always so generous when somebody like you is willing to share so publicly about your struggles, because I think it gives all of us, but especially the younger people, it just gives them cover to experience life, which even those of us who have essentially hit the lottery in this business, it's not been just like a trajectory like this, even if sometimes it appears like it is. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs emotionally, professionally, musically, sometimes playing wise, and so thank you for sharing all that with us. That's that's awesome. So this unique point that you are at is that I've never seen you with facial hair before.
Nope.
I've not known you for 29 years. I've known you for a while, but less than 28 years. Yeah. And you are, you know, you were talking, I don't remember this is before we hit record or after that, like you just applied for a job like today. You know what I mean? Like you're standing at the next chapter. And how old were you when you got in the band?
22.
So like you had like the first 22 years, which you're a kid, and then you've had like, you know, chapter 2 was like the last 28 years. So you're like starting the third chapter like right now. What is that? Is that exciting? Is that scary? Is that both?
No, I think mostly exciting. You know, truth be told, I'm in my PJs. I haven't shaved. I've got the second cup of the coffee for the day going. The dogs are asleep. My wife's at the gym. My kids are at school. Like, you guys have caught me as close to heaven as what retired is going to look like. So, like messing with this currently is not the plan. Like this is what I want to do for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, it's been such a grind, especially the last handful of years. And I do have a big family here at home. So getting a chance to be there for them. At one point I said that I've been selfish in my career. And I think sometimes as musicians, you know, there's so much practice and dedication. The gigs come when they can, and the Army sends you wherever. But, you know, my family was quick to sort of quell that with saying that you've been in service. You can't really classify that as selfish. But At the same time, I'm looking forward to being around a little bit more.
Yeah.
With the military bands, you get to be around, but it's on somebody else's terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll get to be around on my terms now, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Yeah. As a freelancer, you could decide, my kids, whatever is that night, I need to go to that. But if you're in a military band and there's a thing on a day at a time, guess what you're doing?
Right. And that was also my approach. I mean, from the time that I was, I guess, 97, 98, I moved into the assistant principal role behind Woody English, which was, a lesson every day. It was fantastic. But I thought that was my job.
Playing wise, not behaviorally.
Yeah. Learned some things all the way across the board, but yeah.
He is a brilliant knucklehead. Yeah, we need to interview Woody. Yeah,
you really do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I love it. Anytime I get to play a gig with him around town, it's just it's a masterclass. Yeah, on a couple of levels. Yeah, I'll leave it
exactly.
At that. Yeah.
But I'd heard the guys talk about it before enough. Like, that was my job. That wasn't an option. And then once I moved into principal, I never missed a concert. Once I moved into the quintet, I literally never missed a concert, not one in 12 years, because that was my job. And I took it, whether it's seriously or over seriously or whatever, but that was my approach to the gig. And that's how I had learned from some of my predecessors. So, there was no, I'm going to bag that, or I'm not going to be there on that weekend or that trip, or, it was the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, so now, and share as much as you're comfortable sharing, but have you thought about what the direction is, or portfolio of activities, or like how long you might sort of ruminate and stay in your jammies while you sort it out? Like, where are you in that process?
Well, I think at this point, in terms of the playing, as we spoke to already, it's more, so it really is about the people. I made the conscious decision once I got to a certain place in my career with the band that the double dip wasn't really appropriate. I don't know if appropriate is the right word, but this is my hometown, and there's a lot of great freelance players, and I was getting paid well, and I had responsibilities in the band. And once I had played with the NSO and the BSO and all the show houses and all that stuff in my 20s or maybe early 30s, I just sort of felt like it was a responsibility to stay focused on the mission of Pershing's Own and allow some of the other guys to do the gigs around town. So I had a couple things that I kept, mostly, again, to see people. And as I move into retirement, I'd love to go back to working with some of these great people again. And they're just fantastic players in this town. And I miss them. I don't miss the music a ton because the quintet was just it for me. But man, I miss the coffee. I miss the hangs, miss the drinks after. I really miss the people aspect of our business and our community.
Yeah, that's kind of a it's not the best kept secret, but that is definitely one of the fringe benefits about being in the gig.
Yeah,
that we're in. It's just like, it's just so fun. Like, it's the after hang, the waiting backstage stuff, all that stuff. Those like quiet times are the stuff that it's funny. I remember those things as much as I remember the onstage stuff. Because at some point, the onstage stuff just all starts to run together.
Exactly.
You remember like cracking up at this or that meal or someone did whatever.
Yeah, I literally said that at my retirement, that I don't remember what we played at X, Y, or Z place, but I remember the hang. And for us, and I'm sure this was true for you guys on the road, man, the van time is epic. Mm-hmm. I've had more therapy in those van rides where you just get to talk about the kids or the dog or life or whatever, and hear it from your friends, know you're not alone. The van time in the chamber music setting or the rehearsal time, man, there's just nothing like it. So I know I'm going to miss that part quickly. The notes, not quite as much.
Right.
There was a very, speaking of backstage, there was a very famous backstage hang between Boston Brass and the U.S. Army Brass Quintet. This was before Terry's time, This was this was your predecessors, but this was the first time that we played together, and we were in a theater playing in a conference room at the Broadmoor for the Colorado MEA. And the backstage, there is no way to get in or out except for going through the hall and like walking right up on stage. So we had to be back there for the entire. There was like they handed out like 5 Lifetime Achievement Awards. And the first one, like who sets the tone. If the first one speaks for 5 minutes, then you're good. The first guy spoke for like 17 minutes, and we were like, there's like 4 when you can't give somebody the hook when it's a lifetime achievement, and the 10 of us got a little punchy, and there was shenanigans with hand soap. I mean, it was getting chaotic. Like people were taking uniforms off so that they weren't getting it was that was bad. We were back there for like an hour and a half just listening to these people droning on, and I can't even share all of the details. So but yeah, it was that was a legendary night. Yeah, I couldn't believe that we didn't get in trouble. It's like sounds like we're in on a high school band trip. Can you believe that we got away with all going to Johnny's room at 3 a.m. and playing poker? It was like
right.
It was it was the alleged adults in the room that were there to entertain everyone. I want to ask you about, you spent a month recording as a principal trumpeter of the Singapore Symphony. That's that's just a very cool. What was it like? Recording. I mean, principal trumpet is like you're dictating all of the style and note length, all that to the brass section, and then here you are, not actually, you're a guest and you're recording. I mean, there's layers there. What was that like, and how did you get that gig?
Yeah, so I'll start with the how. I think you guys know I grew up around here in the DC area, and was so blessed to be around great musicians and great opportunities. Like Northern Virginia Youth Symphony has turned into AYP. The Brass Piece still exists. I saw that you guys have spoken with Sylvia.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome interview for anybody. Yeah. She's amazing. She's incredible.
But yeah, my son, I was in Brass Piece with Gil Mitchell, and now my son's in Brass Piece with Sylvia, and it's just awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I made some friends over that time, and two of them are in Singapore. Assistant Principal Horn and Principal Trombone are both Robinson and Woodson, I think, and all Brass Piece folks. And what happened was their principal got sick. Something happened, couldn't play, and on like a week's notice, they flew me out to do pictures. So got off of a 24-hour flight. Okay, and then it was one of those those stories like, sir, could you try with a little more length to the bum bum bum? What about with a little more separation and bum bum? I played it the same way every time. Oh, that's great. So 7 times through the opening by myself. Everything went great for that week. And when the recording came up, they said, hey, that kid's okay. Why don't you bring him back? So I took a little bit of wrangling to get away time from the military. I'd never done that before. But it was a slow time, as it turned out, for the band, and I got away, and it was just incredible. I had not sat behind an orchestra in a long time, especially playing principal, so sort of running the band like that, other than whatever we did with the Army. But it was all Rachmaninoff, just fantastic tune after fantastic tune, and really gracious people, incredible musicians, very worldly. And if you've been over there, English is the first language, so there's not a real challenge that way. But their hall, oh my God, it's unreal. Yeah. So I do my thing. So I'm in there doing my routine, like 2 hours before the show, and making nice with the BIS guys, and just had a really great time. And Lance, you've got some military stories, so we can digress on how sometimes there are challenges there. But we were looking at the schedule, and my buddy Alan and I were trying to figure out if we could pop away to Phuket for the weekend. And, oh, well, we got to be back for this and that. And the music director was standing behind me, and he goes, oh, you guys want to go to Phuket? Oh, well, I'll just move your stuff to the afternoon on Monday. I'm like, I've been in the band like 24 years, never had that kind of respect, So we did. We popped off
That's
to
pretty
Phuket
cool.
and hung out and came back and kept recording. But
Wow.
It was a really brilliant week, and to connect with friends from high school and be all playing principal in a major symphony over there in Asia was awesome.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
story.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's
Pretty
one of
cool.
the best halls I've ever played in. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's beautiful. The outside, the inside looks gorgeous. The sound is amazing.
Yeah.
In the audience, sound is amazing on stage. Yeah, they got that right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite concerts I ever played in my life. I played in there.
Yep.
Yeah, there you
It
go.
was just like
You know it.
unforgettable.
Yep.
Yeah, literally, I asked all the permissions that I needed to, but I would just go hang and practice. I don't know when I'm ever going to be in a hall like that again. And like the guys from BIS for the recording, the Swiss are so sweet, and yeah, man, come on in. We're just setting up, honk away, and it was great.
So we've teased the routine a couple of times. You want to dive
Yeah.
into that?
We're gonna do that in
Yeah.
the practicing corner, Lance.
Oh, are we? Okay.
There's a plan here. There's a plan.
Yeah.
There's a
Gotcha.
plan.
I should have been on the pre-interview. Oh, wait. I was there. Well, you know what? It's a good time for me to... I keep forgetting to tell Andrew that Houchin Horns aims to spread the joy of music through providing the highest level of product, services, and resources to the brass playing community. I'm very sorry, Andrew. I've been meaning to get to you about that, and I just keep forgetting.
You just keep track of what the schedule is for the interview. That's all I need from you.
Well, I'll do my best. Who are we interviewing today? They have a 15-day money-back guarantee with free shipping on all new instruments and accessories with multiple easy financing options on all inventory. Terms and conditions apply. They have they stock the finest makes of brass instruments, including Bach and Conn-Selmer, Eastman Shires, Engelbert Schmidt, Paxman, Tyne, and Yamaha, among many others. Repairs and customizations in-house. You can browse vintage and consignment instruments at houchinhorns.com. You can browse the extensive news and resources page on houchinhorns.com for great pedagogical info, articles, interviews, videos, and events. And that's no lie. We've done that a number of times. And, Andrew, I keep forgetting to tell you that if you enter the promo code Junkies at online checkout, you'll receive 10% off your purchase from houchinhorns.com. Some limitations apply.
I want to get to one more. First of all, Lance, that was impressive. That was one hell of a read. I'm thinking about figuring out something to, plug here on the.
That was all off the top of my head. I was
Right.
just trying to remember that stuff to tell you.
Really, really impressive, and the fact that you remember it the same way every time is you're a savant.
It's definitely not my underwear.
So we've got time before the practicing corner tip. I wanted to ask you one thing when asking you about what you might want to talk about. You mentioned the importance of being able to say yes when getting called, and can you comment on that? You mentioned before one of your home bases is big band. I know that you're great with jazz, you're great with classical, and I think that's part of what goes into being able to say yes to stuff. But can you give us a lesson on being able to say yes?
Yeah, sure. So I think coming out of school, that was one point in your life where being able to say yes is going to be important. And oddly enough, here I am almost 30 years later in that same position where if I want to supplement my income, I need to be able to say yes when the calls come in. So, having grown up in a musical family, my dad was gigging around town a bunch and had played with everybody from, Sinatra and a bunch of different big bands of the time, but also played orchestrally. And I learned that early on. He was saying yes a lot. And as a bass trombone player, doubling on tuba, doubling on euphonium. Sure. Yeah, sure. But I would also see him then making phone calls, hey, can I borrow euphonium for the weekend? Trying Clark studies and remembering how the fingerings all go, so there is some smoke and mirrors to it. And, so anyway, I added a jazz studies degree, along with my classical degree. And beyond just being able to say yes, the cultural things and the musical experiences. And I just can't recommend it highly enough, especially for a young player. Now, the rest of that's maybe pulling back some of the layers, is we're not talking about giant steps in all 12 keys. My son's learning to play and trying to do different things as well. And pick 5 tunes, 10 tunes, and I'll memorize, a couple of changes and a couple of things that work on that tune, and maybe a couple of choruses on Autumn Leaves or something like that. And 9 times out of 10, you can really trick folks into thinking you're a jazzer if you can play stylistically correct. And the only thing that happens is if you play around the same cats too much, they're going to be like, oh, Terry's playing his solo again. But we do a Zach Smith arrangement of Autumn Leaves, and like everybody, including my family, can sing along with my solo because
do that other lick that you do. I like the other one.
It works.
Yeah.
It really
Dixie
does.
Power Trio, Zach Smith?
Yeah. They've got a whole series of quintet stuff that they did for another group I played with in
that
town
band.
back in the
I used
day.
to go see them anytime they were around. When I was living in D.C., I was a devout fan.
Yeah, no, those guys are just incredible. But I play 2 choruses on it. And so every once in a while I'll swap the choruses out so everybody thinks I've done something new. And then eventually they realize, no, that's just that same solo again.
I almost just spit coffee on my keyboard. That was well played.
Yeah, but I mean, polka, salsa, the German stuff. I mean, I've done, you name it. You say yes, and you're having a great time and great musicians, and then other things come from that generally.
Yeah.
And then you're gigging.
And you know why Terry can get away with saying yes and then figuring it out is because he's got really good ears, and that's the key. That's the key to learning languages. That's the key to learning musical languages or spoken language. It's all about ear and just doing a lot of listening and then being aware of what's coming out of your bell and then just doing some homework. But that's if you bring Prokofiev, like note weight and beginnings to Autumn Leaves. It doesn't matter how doesn't matter how many licks you learn or how adroit you are at weaving them in and out of. It's gonna not exactly sound great. Just last night I was asked by somebody who found out I was a professional musician, asked what kind of music I played, and I said. I'm a classical player who at times does a really good job of faking that I'm a jazz player.
Yep.
It's just I think is fair. So.
Well, you made a great point there too about the ears. So I went through this chop thing in college, and I recognized early on that a lot of people played the horn better than me. A lot of people, and to this day, a lot of folks can technically play the instrument. But I maybe did have something special with my ears and that ability to morph, especially coming into town as a second trumpet player. I could morph into their sound and style instantly. And some of that was growing up in the church and being around music from a young age, and hearing voices and chamber singing and and sort of applying that to the trumpet. I've never been a huge fan of trumpet players. I'm a big fan of musicians. And so I would, talking about the younger folks, go to the flute master class. You know enough about trumpet. Yes. Jesus, what do you think? You're going to learn how to play double high C today? Don't be stupid. Go listen to a violinist or go listen to a vocalist or whatever. It's one of the keys to my success over the years. Had very little to be trumpet-wise, but man, I got oboe player votes. I got violist votes because I came in there and played music from note one rather than just trying to impress the one brass player that I might get a vote if I played that high C louder. So anyway, just a quick aside there about the audition world.
That's so great. Yeah, so many students don't realize. They wouldn't admit that they don't realize this, but they don't show it with their actions. Where if you are studying with Lance LaDuke at where do you teach again? At
Carnegie Mellon University in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Enough about them because they're not a sponsor. If you're studying with Lance at Carnegie Mellon, you will never again in your life, unless you go and get another degree, have the concentration of opportunities in terms of people passing through to go to violin master classes and to go to, if you want to learn how to play phrases really well, go listen to singers. That's what we're all trying to sound like. And that's what Lance and Terry both sound like when they're at their best. It's like singers who just happen to be buzzing their lips into metal cups rather than worrying about diction, Right. And so that's a great message to be checking out, checking out masterclasses of other instruments, because I did a masterclass at the National Orchestral Institute. God, this was over 20 years ago now. Where Ed Barker, who was the principal bass of the Boston Symphony for decades, he recently retired. He was doing a bass master class, and I asked if I could crash it. And we were doing the Prokofiev Romeo and Juliet suite, and he said absolutely. And there, because there's some tuba and string bass section moments in there, and he let me in, and some of it was marked as soft, and he did not he was a very gentle, very loving, supportive guy, but appropriately, he did not give a crap what was hard on the tuba. He was just that's too loud. He was just and I think at one point he even said, he was like, I realize I'm probably asking a lot here, but it has to sound right, and you're too loud for the bass section because I can't hear them, and they shouldn't be playing louder because that's going to balance. And this guy had performed that piece probably 19 times with the Boston Symphony and various orchestras, and so I had to get real soft. And then he was again lovingly, he was just like, that's soft, but now but no, I didn't ask for any less of the line. Your line was perfect before. I asked for it to be so. It's like holy crap, yeah. He just was and that was what a great lesson, because the bass player shouldn't care what's hard on the tuba. That's my problem, right? I don't care what's hard on the trumpet. That's Terry's problem. What's hard on the trombone or the ukulele is Lance's problem, and we go on.
Well, I know, and Andrew, I know how big of a fan you are of the Steelers, but what the most famous quote from Mike Tomlin is, "The standard is the standard." So it doesn't. End of story. That's everything you need to know about it. I'm sorry that it needs to be softer, but I'm not sorry, because that's what the standard is.
Well, that brings me back. I remember going to see Michel Debost, who was the professor of flute at the Paris Conservatory, and then came to Oberlin the last couple of years I was there. But what he spoke to was overcoming the idiosyncrasies of your instrument in practice, so that you can be the musician you want to be. So he spent a lot of time talking about fundamentals and, all of those kind of things. But if you can, you shouldn't know that my Ds are flat. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't know that I need to trigger the low Ds. You shouldn't know that my high Gs are sharp. You shouldn't know any of that shit.
Amen.
You should just know that I'm playing a musical line. So that has been a lifetime goal of being able to communicate well enough on the instrument that you're just making music.
Yeah. That must be difficult is never a thought you want going through some listener's mind.
No. I mean, what a terrible thing to do to your audience.
Yeah.
Overcoming the idiosyncrasies of your instrument so you can become the musician you want to be. That's the next time I say something that's to the point will be for the first time. That's awesome. That's really, really powerful. Wow. Good stuff. All right, so we find ourselves at the practicing corner, presented by Hitz Academy Practice Coaching. Want to get less done? Less done.
Yep.
Do you want to get?
Yes, please. Where do I sign up?
Do you want to get less done in more time in the practice room? Just keep your phone on your stand, and that's solved. That's easy. Yeah. Do you want to get more done in less time in the practice room? Like compound interest in a bank account, unless there's no money in the bank account, and then the interest doesn't help. Making yourself even just 10% more efficient in the practice room will make you a better practicer forever, and those results will continue to compound for literally the rest of your career. Let practice coaching from Hitz Academy help you implement systems that will improve every aspect of your practicing routine, do better at auditions, and unlock your true potential as a musician. You can learn more at practicecoach.link/coaching. So, Terry, What is your
Yes, sir.
practice tip for all of the fine people in the Brass Junkies community?
Well, I would love to speak to what I've referred to over the years as my routine. And not just the specifics of it, because I think there's a lot of folks that could speak to that better, maybe, but the importance and the role that it has played for me in my success over the years. When I first got to town and got into the band, we've already spoken a little bit about Woody English, but he was the master of the routine, his practice regimen. And so I'd get to the hall way early thinking I was going to be first, and he was already there. And so I'd get my little practice room next to him, and I realized about 5 minutes in, like, I literally couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle how good he was and how far away from where I was at that point in my life, So I went back out to my car and I practiced in the car. And then I would come back in, and once I got a little more confidence, I started making note of the things that he was doing. And so as an icon in my profession, whom better to learn from, right? So if I wanted to be like him someday, I figured starting with his practice regimen would be a good go-to. So it's primarily out of the Schlossberg book, all of these different routines. And so I'd write them down, and he was doing them double-tongued on his E-flat trumpet up to high C's over and over again, and I could barely get through it one time on my B-flat, and I would go out to my car and I would shed. And a couple of years down the road, I managed to be doing it on my C trumpet, and then eventually some on my E-flat as well, and just getting through this routine that made him successful for 35 years in the Army Band. And I started to see the impact that made on my daily life. And one of the things I wanted to speak to about the practice routine or regimen is something that makes me nuts in our profession are the words, "I'm getting ready for." What are you getting ready for? An audition that's going to be different than the rehearsal you got today? Or, I'm going to play this something with this symphony or whatever. That doesn't work for me. I wanted to be that Kobe-like, or, going back farther, a Jerry Rice type of thing, where the preparation, the dedication on a daily basis is here. It's just set. And I know exactly what my face is going to feel like at the end of that routine. No matter what's happened to me the night before, no matter what I've got to play that day, I've seen where my low C is, my high C is, everything else in between, where the pitch is for me that day. When I walk into the rehearsal setting, I have maximized what I can give my teammates. And that passion and care for those around me really is what drove that. I think at some points, trumpet players and egos and all the rest of that, people don't know me very well if they're talking like that. I had such a deep care for what we did as an organization and who my people were around me, that seemed like the baseline. How could you not come in completely prepared? So if you find your routine and you're doing it on a daily basis, there's no I'm getting prepared for. It's just another day. If I've got to play taps at To Me An Unknown Soldier, or I'm going out for a full-honor funeral, or I'm playing a solo with the concert band, or the great fortune I had to sit in with Chicago Symphony, there was no change, not one iota different to my prep, my eating, my practice session, any of that stuff. And so when I got on the stand, there was no surprises, And for me, with my mental makeup and body and all the rest of that, the comfort and confidence that came from having done that routine every day was just life-changing, absolutely life-changing. There were no guesses. I didn't wonder what a high C was going to feel like when I got on the stand. I knew exactly where it was prepared, and I was going to nail it because I'd already done it 100 times in the practice room. So Now the caveat to that is it takes a while, right? My routine when I started was probably an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and I would go to a solid hour break before having to play in front of people because I was beat. The joke on the stand when I'm doing master classes is then I had 3 kids in 18 months with a set of twins in there. Scooby-Doo is about 27 minutes long. So that's how long my routine is now. I got it down to 27 minutes because that's how long they would stare at the TV before screaming at me. So
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, but that's been in on my honeymoon. I rented out the racquetball court because it was the only place that was air conditioned. I did my routine in there. I ended up having kids. I'm rocking the kids with my feet and doing the routine with my practice mute in. It was probably as much of a blanket, security blanket as it was necessary for me to be successful.
Wow.
But who cares, man? It worked.
And that's how you can get on an airplane and and fly all the way to Tokyo, and then have another 6-hour and 40-minute flight to Singapore, and then play Picture and Exhibitions intro 7 different times while the conductor's making you jump through flaming hoops, and you're fine.
Yeah, that's what worked for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but and it's a good 6 to 9 months until that really sets in. So if you're looking for a quick fix, I ain't your guy. I'm in the shed, man. Every day I'm in the shed. I never found a quick fix, not once. But the shed works.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Terry, this has been wonderful. We are going to have you stick around for the bonus episode where we will we'll ask you some probing questions. Yep, for sure. Just real surface stuff, politics, religion, that kind of stuff. And I
can finally talk about those.
Yeah, there you go.
Look out, boys.
There you go. All right, here he comes. We are going to, if you would like to hear the bonus episode with Terry or the bonus episode with a whole long list of people, you can become a Patreon patron and support the Brass Junkies. You can go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And actually, I just started a new thing, which is called the Brass Junkies. The Brass Junkies?
Junkies.
Yes, I've started a second podcast. It's called the Brass Junkies. No, it is called the Brass Junkies Listening Lab, and I actually talk about recordings that I really dig. And the first one, which just posted a couple of days ago, was Class Brass by Empire Brass, and a couple, few YouTube clips thrown in, but and just talk about some specifics and tell a story of an Empire gig I saw. Then Rolf was hungover and they played a bunch of Class Brass tunes, and it's so some actual usable content and then some other stuff. But you can find all that at patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, including the bonus episode that we are about to record with Terry. So Terry, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Congratulations on the facial hair, and congratulations on whatever is next for you, which is pretty exciting. So, Lance,
I gotta say thank you to you guys as well too. I've been such a fan for so many years of what you do and who you are, more importantly. And thank you for your continued dedication to young people and old people alike that love brass playing and want to get better. And thank you so much for including me.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow, man. What the heck? You're not getting paid, right?
The impressive thing is that was the exact script I sent him, but that sounded like it was off the cuff.
Sounded genuine.
That's how good the read was. It was just,
yeah. I'm working on my reads too, so yeah.
It's like, wait, you need me to read this verbatim? That's weird. Just do it, or the interview is off. So yes, Lance, thank you as always for your talents and and for knowing the order that we were going to do things in the interview. So yeah.
When do we start recording?
Hang out for the bonus episode, Terry, and that is going to do it for this episode of the Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.